Hello there, and welcome to Geek Speak. My name is Nath, and you've caught me polishing off the last of Mount Chocolate, as over the Christmas period, I'm fairly certain that I ate my own body weight in cheese, chocolate, and all manners of calorific goodness. It is the one time of year in which it is perfectly socially acceptable to enjoy an excessive amount of whatever comforts you choose. Well, one of my great comforts, as we know, is adventuring through gigantic digital worlds. So with that in mind, here are 7 video games that are ridiculously big. We're going to go in ascending order here. So the fact that entry number 1 this week is Bethesda's behemoth Skyrim, well, it should set the tone of what is to come. I do feel a certain sense of pride in my Skyrim knowledge, being that it is a game that I have played across 3 console generations and have sunk well over 200 hours into. It is one of my comfort food games, and it is little surprise as to why, with the vast, frozen landscape of the 5th Elder Scrolls game being home to a Tolkien-esque tale of dragons, danger, and dungeon diving galore. Skyrim is host to several main quest lines, as well as hundreds of side quests that will take your custom adventurer far across its world, from the frozen heights of the capital city Solitude to the thief-filled streets of Riften, the Rohan-inspired city on a hill Whiterun, to the Mages College of Winterhold, or Hogwarts for grown-ups. While not the largest map on this list by any stretch of the imagination, the impressive part of the snowy sandbox is how much there is to discover and do. I'm currently on my 4th or 5th playthrough, and there are still side quests and entire locations that I'm stumbling into for the very first time. Not at all bad for a game that first launched all the way back on the 11th day and 11th month of the 2011th year. Our second stop on this tour of games that are a large marge is the futuristic Neon Night City. Despite the game having a somewhat turbulent launch, Cyberpunk 2077 in its current state is an absolute delight to explore, and holy crap is there a lot to explore. As with many of the games on this list, there is a substantial amount of story and post-story content for the player to gorge themselves on, as you navigate your protagonist V through their journey from rookie jobber to experienced edge runner, as you try to survive in this postmodern musing on what the world of tomorrow might look like. The enormous map is a wonderful mix of sci-fi skylines, desolate deserts, grimy ganglands, and more hidden bases than you can shake a cyber gear at, adding up to a rich, varied, and full-feeling world, with lots of colour both in its setting and in its characters. If that doesn't sell it to you, then it's also worth noting that you spend the game walking around with Keanu Reeves quite literally living in your head. He provides a performance worthy of his Hollywood acumen. I strongly recommend seeing how deep this particular rabbit hole goes. You will absolutely not regret it. From the distant future now to the good old days of the Wild West in Rockstar's excellent Red Dead Redemption 2. Boasting an impressive map size of 29 square miles, Red Dead 2 is one of the best single-player experiences on console, with a rich, immersive world filled with outlaws, gunslingers, and 10-gallon hats. It's the lack of clutter in this wide expanse of the West that really sucks you in as a player, giving a real sense of the freedom and prospect of opportunity seen in the Westerns of old. When you do get to a town, they are bustling hubs of commerce, filled with strange characters, rowdy saloons, side quests, and side hustles that make sure your experience of being a cowboy on the wrong side of the tracks is an authentic one. And speaking of tracks, perhaps the most impressive element of the map itself is the railway network that can be used as a source of revenue when robbing trains, a source of transport when in a hurry, and a source of amusement when you inevitably decide to twirl your moustache evilly and hog-tie an unsuspecting victim to the line and wait for the obvious to happen. As thankfully, the trains in Red Dead 2 are much more reliable than the ones in the real world. The original Final Fantasy VII from 1997 was by no means a small game. In fact, it was so large that in a pre-DVD world, the game required 3 full CD-ROMs to fit all of its JRPG goodness onto. Well, coming in at an impressive 65 square miles, the map of its HD remake is a sight to behold. Admittedly, I am wholeheartedly wearing my nostalgia goggles, because visiting fully realised HD versions of Cosmo Canyon and the Gold Saucer that I've only ever experienced in their blocky 90s form is a total blast. It's a bit like watching a really good movie adaptation of a book you used to love. Despite its massive size, the world is seamlessly interconnected by jungles, deserts, cities, oceans, tropical resorts and more, making it feel full and alive that you don't even realise how grand it actually is. There are again plenty of options for exploration and completion, with collectibles, secrets and enemies hiding in every nook and cranny. Square Enix absolutely needed to nail the feeling of this, the most iconic world in JRPG history, and I am pleased to report that in my humble opinion, they resoundingly stuck the landing. We are back again with CD Projekt Red and their most famous open world RPG, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Based on the series of novels sharing the same name, this fantasy epic is set across the sprawling 88 square mile continent from Slavic folklore, and is filled with some of the most detailed and stunning environments imaginable. There is definitely a Norse undertone in the world of The Witcher that sees the platinum-haired protagonist Geralt of Rivia let loose across its plains, forests and villages on a never-ending quest to make some coin by dispatching all of said world's various monsters. It's a simple premise, but it's executed flawlessly, with so much story content, side questing and free exploration that you'll be playing this one for at least 100 hours before having even scratched the surface. It is a game that is enormous both in its size and in the volume of excellent gameplay on offer, and with The Witcher 4 just around the corner, there has never been a better time to toss a coin to your Witcher and dip your toes into the waters of this Game of Thrones meets Elder Scrolls fantasy giant. We're playing with the big boys now, as Mojang's pixel-perfect world of Minecraft is next, with a maximum map size coming in at a staggering 16,288.873 squared miles, or to put it another way, over 4 times the size of the entire United States of America. I dread to think how long it would take me to find the end of the map with this creative blocky survival game, but thankfully I don't need to, because Minecraft is a game that gives you the player the freedom to do whatever the hell you want to. My personal preference is to spend hours upon hours in the Lego box that is creative mode, sculpting fortresses, castles, cities, and on one occasion a giant gingerbread man. There is also the brilliant survival mode that allows you to forage and fight monsters while scraping together resources to build, and an immense online community with creators across the globe who make genuinely impressive worlds that I could only dream of. Don't let the child-friendly visuals fool you. There is a lot of fun to be had in this pixelated piece of platforming perfection. When trying to understand the sheer scope and size of No Man's Sky, I had to speak to an honest-to-goodness scientist to understand the math. It does help that I currently live with said scientist, but the point is that to round it down, 3.7 times 10 to the power of 18 square miles, well, it's really bloomin' big. Solar system levels of really bloomin' big, in fact. No Man's Sky was again a game that, while it got off to a rockier start than an asteroid, is now an out-of-this-world experience. Quite literally, in fact, as the main premise of the game is that you are an interstellar explorer who must fight, scavenge, trade, and navigate your way across the galaxy. With over 18 quintillion planets to explore, yes, that is a real number, although I had to Google it, there is no shortage of content in this science fiction survival. The visuals are brilliant, the gameplay is intuitive and accessible, and no other game to date for me has captured the sheer freedom of space exploration in this way. It is a massive game that is massive fun to experience. And there we are, 7 games that are ridiculously big. Why not drop a comment down below if you think I missed one? Please also do drop this video a like, share it and subscribe to the channel. There are lots of fun videos in the pipeline, so stay tuned for those and get the bell on to be notified for when they drop. As always, a massive thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe, see you bye.